Hello, world. Hello, universe. My name is Mia Park, and I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm doing this interview series. I am. It's called In Response Interviews with Intriguing Internalizers. And I am so excited because I'm talking to my friends and my family from all these different countries, and I know everybody I'm talking to. It's really exciting. And this interview series was my response to whew, to 2020 and the world as we know it in 2020. I know, shaking my head. It is August 4th. We still got our good friend COVID-19 hanging out with us. And we still have very needed and ongoing fight for racial equality. And my guest today is Bob Ladewig, coming from Los Angeles. Hello,
Yes,
Bob.
yes. Hello, Miss Mia. Hi there. Hi, world.
Hi, world.
Yeah.
So Bob and I met doing improv. Bob's a very talented improviser, even if he's not improvising now, still talented guy. And we met at IO here in Chicago. Oh my gosh, a long
Like
time ago.
20 years ago.
Has it been 20 years?
About
Yes.
19, 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been that long ago. So I host Chicago, which is somehow still around somewhere in there. But there's been a couple times where I needed a camera person and someone who could also do the puppet. And Bob was like uniquely qualified to do that. And the other reason why Bob was uniquely qualified as a guy who could be really smart and funny on his feet and be comfortable working a camera, Bob's like one of the coolest music fans I know. Um, Always amazing playlists. You're the one that turned me on the Spoon, which has since then still been one of my favorite bands. And then we got to interview Spoon with the
Yeah.
puppet.
Oh man, yeah. That interview was so fun and weird. It was in the Abbey. It was downstairs at the Abbey.
Yeah, in the basement. When the Abbey burned down, that place is gone.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah. So it's so fun because you are such a big Spoon fan. You even made a video of one of their songs, right? And then it just
yeah.
everything fell together.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was
Yep.
like, hey Bob, guess what? We get to interview Britt Daniel. Will you be the
Yeah.
puppet and come with me?
Yeah. That was such a fun interview, and I remember he was chewing on little Ratso, and I'm like, nice to eat you. Yeah, it's so silly.
Yeah,
So
and that
silly.
lives so silly. That lives somewhere on YouTube, people. Okay, so Bob, is there anything else that you want people to know about you? And by the way, we have a comment from Amanda Phillipson who says, "Big fan of Bob here."
Awesome. Amanda, we go way back too. That was around that same time, a little bit before. Hello, Amanda. Anything else to know about me? 32-year diabetic. I have had type 1 diabetes for the vast majority of my life. But still kicking, still living. So that's it.
That's right. And when we were friends here in Chicago, I remember you telling me about that. And you were like my only friend at the time with type 1 diabetes. So it was an opportunity for me to learn more about it. So, in a way, I'm sorry that you have type 1 diabetes, but in a way, you're an advocate about it because you're so open talking about
Totally.
that
Yeah.
condition.
Yeah, and I've been doing like diabetic research and doing clinical testing on new products and all of that for 10, 15 years now, and I love the science and the study of it. It's pretty incredible.
Isn't that interesting how we have these lots in life that we get and it's everyone's got something. So everyone's got stuff.
Right.
And sometimes that stuff can be really helpful to ourselves as development tools and for other people. Like I'm glad you're working on these drugs to help other
Yeah.
people
I
feel
mean,
better.
I got this. This is a continuous glucose monitor. It keeps track of my blood sugar 24 hours a day.
Is
It's
that
been
in your
awesome.
skin?
Yeah, it's like this. It's got this little. I'm going this way. This little sort of needle under the skin, and it just keeps track of your blood sugar. It's life changing. Life changing.
Is it like through Bluetooth that it's changed? Like how do you get the
I
reading
mean,
from that?
it analyzes fluids in your body and translates that to blood sugar level, and then sends it to like it has a reader, but it also sends it to your phone, and just it keeps a graph of like when you eat and how much. Yeah, it's awesome.
Technology is, yo, you have a chip that's
I'm a
reading your
robot.
blood. You are a robot in
Part
your
robot.
body, in your
Yeah.
skin, and
Mhm.
it's like sending you messages about your liquid chemistry to a phone.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, now you really are too legit to quit. That's awesome.
Part-time robot. Yeah, I love it. But it honestly has changed my life. Like you need to take an A1C test, a hemoglobin A1C test to monitor your blood sugar levels. And mine has been at 5.8 for like a year, which is better than normal. Like that's like normal level. So I'm just like, yeah, I no longer have diabetes.
Hey, that's great. Cool,
Beat it.
man.
I mean, I'm still taking insulin and
Yay.
everything, but I beat it. I figured it out.
Yay.
Yeah.
Um, so speaking of being able to beat things,
Yeah.
where's Mia going with this? I'm going to talk about the outside world for a second. So
Totally.
let's talk about your outside world. That's
Mhm.
intense. You're in LA, which is
Yeah.
intense with the, fight for justice protests
Yeah.
and the COVID. So talk
Yeah.
about that outside world and then share your
Yeah.
inside response to that.
Totally. I mean, the outside world, we were on such good track as a community. Los Angeles was on good track. And then mayors and a lot of people in Orange County that see things wrong decided that they were done with it and went outside and had parties. And this is my, interpretation of the happenings. But like, it felt like we were on such good track. And then suddenly everything went wrong. Suddenly, people were fighting the masks. People were blaming the protests. When you see on TV and you see people's videos, like protests, people were wearing masks. People were being careful. Maybe not the social distancing so much, but the masks help that. So like so much went wrong. It felt like so quickly when we were on such good track, and to see it. And I have been cooped up. Having diabetes puts me at a higher risk. So like I've been good and indoors, and I live with a almost 5-year-old. So like we want to keep everything safe. We want to keep it here. Um, and just to see it turn so quickly has been astounding. Like I didn't expect that to happen. We were on such good track. So yeah, it's just for a while I was doing grocery shopping runs like once a week to try to keep everything in, but now I can't even, I don't feel safe doing that. So my internal has just been like, now I'm just staying indoors pretty much as much as possible. And I have to now because I tore my MCL in my knee. So I'm not walking. I'm not really going anywhere. I'm not doing much. Yeah.
And Bob,
When things did open up, I'm like, yeah,
how'd you tear the MCL in your knee,
good,
Bob?
good question. I've also been a skateboarder, it feels like my whole life. So at night, during the first few months, like I would go out at night to this Costco parking lot down the street from my house that has a great curb, and I've been skateboarding there to blow off steam and to make sure I'm still part of the world. But when they started to open skate parks up, I'm like, oh, I should go to a skate park. I felt there's a 4-foot mini ramp at the South Pasadena skate park that is perfect. So I went there, and I went there once. Everything was fine. I stayed for maybe 25, 30 minutes. Weren't many people there. And then I think the word got out that skate parks were opening up. So I went back like a week and a half ago, and it was packed. There was a lot of people. So you had to take turns doing your run, and I didn't warm up properly and just landed wrong. Ended up doing the splits pretty much. Like my front foot was still on my board, but my back foot was on the ground, and just tore my legs apart, did the splits, hit my knee on the ground, and ended up tearing my MCL.
That's still pretty punk rock, Bob. You know what I'm saying? It's like I know it's also something that was like completely avoidable. Like no one said you had to go do something fancy on your
Right.
skateboard, not warmed up.
Yeah.
But I still think that it's great that you did that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Do it.
Sure. Yeah. If I had to do it, I mean, that's a good way to do it. It did not feel good. It's not going to feel good. But yeah, I mean, there are worse ways, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to do our thing. So,
Yeah.
I had a question about you said that you're a type 1 diabetic. Does that
Yes.
put you in an at-risk category for COVID-19?
It does. Yeah. Type 2, I believe, is worse. I haven't done all the research on type 2. I mean, I mostly just researched type 1. I believe type 2 are at a higher risk for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why. But yeah, it does put me in the high risk category.
Yeah, be careful. For a million reasons, be careful.
Yeah. Yep. So
Yeah.
I have taken it seriously, staying inside. I can't drive right now, so I'm not driving anywhere. But like, yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. Hey, and my buddy Jay in Argentina is saying it was worth it that you toured. That's right. Jay's like super
Yeah,
athlete too. You gotta do it, man. Um,
totally.
but hey, so in LA, can we talk a little bit about the racial struggle and
Yeah,
what's going on there these
yeah,
days?
yeah. It's wild, like and it's so necessary. And I'm all for all the protests that are happening here, but scared of just north of us in Portland, like everything that's going on there is wild. The response to it is wild. And I hear that didn't they send troops to Chicago as well? Didn't that
I
happen?
think they were going to, but they didn't. In the end,
They
they
did,
didn't.
didn't.
He
Got
just,
it.
you know, 45 is just flapping his lips. But you being a former Portland resident, I'm sure can really connect with what you're seeing out
Yeah,
there.
for sure. Yeah, and I'm in close touch. The theater that I opened is still running there, so I want to keep an eye on it. Look, like finding out that those protests with the serious, troops that were there kidnapping people was pretty much in a 2 block radius of downtown, and that's kind of a distance from where my theater was or is. But still, like to see so much injustice of people just standing up for their rights is insane.
Yeah, the world's pretty intense right now with that. What is your, do you have a response to that
I
coming
just
from your heart and soul?
my response is I don't understand it. I don't understand how people, first of all, can't see that it is wrong. To like, there are people that are behind having those troops there just kidnapping people, and I don't understand that. Like that is just not right. And there's not a lot of listening going on, and that's really all that needs to happen. Like just listen, just hear the problems and try to empathize, try to have some understanding. That's all that is needed. And it seems like it can't happen. And it breaks my heart.
Yeah. Do you have an observation as to why it can't happen? Why listening is so hard for people?
I feel like change takes time, and the the people, the white men that have been in charge of making the laws, making the rules, not even like the written laws, but like social laws, those social laws that have been established for 150 200 years, uh, those men just can't understand any opposing viewpoints. They can't, because they've understood it for so long the way that they want to see it, that they refuse to see it any other way. And that's sad, and I really want that to change, and I think
Yeah,
it will, and I think it can, but we just we need to listen.
it's so frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the I do think it's a generational thing as well when you're talking about like historically
Hmm.
the powers that were there. My view and it's like I'm like, hey, thanks old white men for setting this up because this is still a great country and there's still a lot of potential here. But thank you, old white guys. Get out of the way.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
your turn is done,
Hmm.
and that type of thing. But let's shift this back to you. So I know that you like writing and you've always been a writer. So
Hmm.
wondering how what everything we're talking about, how's that affecting you as an artist in that way?
It's harder. Like I have 3 projects that I'm wanting to finish, wanting to work on, thinking like, oh, there's so much free time now, I can focus on that. But it's so hard to wrap my brain around it, to really give it time to focus on. There's so much other things going on, like like the unemployment is running out, and I'm not really working that much, so I'm worried about where my money's going to start coming from, and worrying about raising a 5-year-old who can't go to school now and has to do homeschooling, and she can barely use an iPad to chat with friends. Like her attention span is 5 minutes. How's she going to have a lesson plan starting school when she doesn't want to look at an iPad for longer than 5 or 10 minutes. Like there's so many little things that take away from any sort of creative time. It's such a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's that I feel like that pressure we all had to maybe have like wanting to learn a language or do all these
Right.
productive things because we're such go-getters, especially as artists. And I know you performed for a long, long, long time. Like I think it's like performers and artists, there's that drive to keep doing that because not only it's what we need to express, but it's how we identify ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's hard. You can't fake it. I mean, why? I think forcing yourself to write something would not be productive if it's not in there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So one of the projects that is written and done, I reached out to some friends, and then they're like doing some illustrations for me. So like that helps, but I don't anticipate that to turn around quickly. But like just reaching out and getting some help with projects is a good way of handling things.
Yeah. What's that process like? Are you good at reaching out and getting help? Asking
Uh,
for help?
yes, I think when it gets to a certain level, yes. At the beginning, it's hard, especially when it's something I'm very excited about, like a new story that I'm writing. Very excited about it. It's hard for me to send it out the first time for ideas and thoughts and feedback. I take it so personally that sometimes I just end up scrapping it when I get feedback that I don't want to hear. And it's hard because I'm too close to it when I'm creating it, I feel. So I have to recognize in myself that I'm okay with this how it is, and I'm ready for feedback. But there have been a couple things that I've written, a few pilots or screenplays or something that I've completed, and before I was ready to like change any of the ideas, thinking like, oh, this is perfect the way it is right now in my head. Here, you give me your feedback, and then when it doesn't work for them, then it destroys me. Which, yeah, it's not great. But I'm aware of how I feel about it. So now I know the place I need to be in order to receive that feedback.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of just an ongoing artist struggle, right? Like we need constructive criticism in order to hone in on our skills, but it's also scary because you put yourself out there. But that's why I think
It
artists,
totally is.
well, artists are warriors in that way. I mean, you're asking to potentially be hurt, but all that stuff just makes you stronger. Um, and speaking of what I just mentioned, um, I feel like you've shared publicly, like you've gone through a lot in a few years.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
do you want to
Mhm.
share your responses about
Sure.
that and how that's helped you change you?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, it has been. I mean, growing up with diabetes A is one big thing. A lot of injuries during skateboarding is another thing. But in the end of 2013, I broke my right leg, and there was two surgeries there, and it was a 6 month recovery. It started as a skateboarding injury. I woke up with low blood sugar after I think just like fractured right above my ankle, my leg right above my ankle. And then ended up rolling my ankle trying to wake it up because it felt like it was asleep, like super weird. Anyway, recovered from that, and immediately my dad was diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Uh, that was in December, trying to remember, December of 2014. He died in February 2015. Then my parents had been divorced since I was in high school. My mom died in a car accident early July 2015. The apartment complex I was living in at the time had bed bugs, like a huge bed bug infestation in August of that year. So I had to move quickly. Got married because I wasn't, got married thinking it would help things. Quickly got divorced because it didn't help things. And yeah, now I tore my MCL here. So that's like the quick outline of all the things that have happened.
Damn. You had such an intense few years there, that block Wow, I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your parents. It's right on top of each other too.
Yeah, that was tough.
Whew.
It did like a positive note out of that. It did inspire me to write a pilot that I'm very proud of, like a comedic take on grief. And I was big into this is when like Black Mirror was just starting, so I was big into Black Mirror, and I wrote like a comedic twist on a Black Mirror premise into a pilot about grief, and I think it works pretty well.
Well, I'm great, and I'm glad to hear. Like, I love hearing that you're able to take your grief and process that as an artist and produce a piece of work that you're proud of. So it sounds like it was cathartic, and also,
Yeah,
again, just made an amazing piece of art.
right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a tough few years for sure, and I'm always going to be dealing with that grief. And I met with a grief group for a year and a half after that, and they're great. And we still keep in touch, send emails every once in a while. We had 2 years running. We had a Thanksgiving meeting where during Thanksgiving we would meet. So it was nice. It was nice to find the support. You know.
Community makes a big difference. As I've been doing this interview series, a lot of times we talk about the importance of community and finding who you are in order to find who your people are. And I'm so glad that you have that. And by the way, Jay down in Argentina, in response to your story, just said you need a big ass bear hug and a big ass scream.
Take it.
So go
Yep.
get your bear hug from your
Yep.
partner or the kid in your house, and then you
Yep.
go out and scream out the window. But well, we're already almost at about time. You're so easy to talk to. It goes by really quickly.
Does.
But yeah, but I want to thank you for sharing. Like I love how open and vulnerable you make yourself. You've always been that way. Like, hi, here I am. That's a real gift for us.
Yeah, I mean, why not? What do you know? What's it worth hiding? What's it worth keeping stuff in? I don't like that, you know. And I know that's kind of like in a general term, like men sort of have the stereotype of like keeping their emotions in and not sharing. And I really hope that changes, because it's not worth keeping it in. Like, why not just share these feelings that you have and then deal with that? Deal with what comes out. And that's for everybody, not just that stereotype of men. One thing I want to mention about us is how grateful I am for you, like for our friendship. You invited me to be Lil Ratso at the very last, before they got back together in 2013, the very last Dismemberment Plan show at the Metro. That was one of the highlights of live shows that I've ever seen. We were on stage the whole time. Yeah, it was so great.
That was like, I think if you're a music fan, you have these rock epic moments. That like we were on the stage. We
Yeah.
had just
Yep.
interviewed them, and like somehow we were still there, and somehow we were standing on the stage during what was supposed to be the swan song. And then of course they
Yeah.
got back together. But at the
Yeah.
time it was great. It was
It
such a
was
great show too.
so good. And I was standing behind Alex, the bass player, the whole time, and we were playing along. Like, he was dancing with Lil Ratso. Oh, so fun. Yeah, definitely a highlight there. That was the best.
Yeah, and for friends watching this or listening to this on a podcast, if you go to YouTube, the channel is Chicago. So it's the word Chicago with an extra go, Chicago. You can see, I know for sure the spoon video is up there, and hopefully soon that dismemberment video will be up there too. You can hear Bob at work as little Ratso or Ratso the puppet.
Yep. So much fun.
Although don't tell Ratso that he's actually not real, because that's too many dimensions to warp right now.
What?
But
Who
what?
says that? No, he's not.
No one. No one. Cool. Well, thanks, Bob, and thanks for your cool playlist on Spotify too. The whole thing.
Thank you, Mia. This is great. It's so nice to see you again.
Oh, it's so nice to see you too. Connect with you. So, everyone, thanks for watching on live stream on Facebook and YouTube, and this interview will live there. And thanks for listening to this as a podcast when it becomes a podcast. And if you want to support me and my team, excuse me, I have a Patreon page. That is patreon.com/Mia Park. And you can chip in a little bit every month to keep me and the team going and support these interviews. So thanks so much, everyone. Bye, Bob.
Bye, Mia.